Mental legislators, it's to wake you up out of your brainwash. Mental legislators, it's to wake you up out of your brainwash. Mental legislators, it's to wake you up out of your brainwash. Mental legislators, it's to wake you up out of your brainwash.
When more study our Quran and questions for Moorish children, prosecutors and magistrates hate us in the admin buildings, challenging jurisdiction, paperwork sent first, no fiat, quenching their money hungry, bloody credit thirst. Trustees benefit when they escheat your estate. That you thought was a provincial state is a big mistake. From corporate plantations, there's no escape or back door unless reserve rights on contract doors. Keep eyes open for, like you misplaced something. It's witchcraft when you hear caught and your heartbeats jumping. Extortion, pass through letters, fake money, bounty hunting. Filing public records, papers within debt counties fronting to have authority. Constitution approved, but those file papers at the county doesn't stop the abuse. Might as well just put on the noose. Shackles and chains on ankles, no boots. In snowstorms with no shame, with no status, no flag, no free national name. With fractional damage, collateral, irrational claims. Catch a psych evaluation or contempt of quasi-court. Calling out what's not in evidence won't set a precedence. It's prison of treason and gross negligence, denying due process and sharing the same sentiments on you harder than cement is. If you give them a chance, I'm here to help you not enter their brainwash camps. Keep your neck hidden, no kidding. Watch out for vamps, light revealer, and keeper won't keep casting the lamps. Always giving without expecting thanks. In a b-boy stance, shimmer toss swinging at outstretched hands.
Mental legislators, it's to wake you up out of your brainwash. Mental legislators, it's to wake you up out of your brainwash.
They're running a front with elegance, lower self-elements. Get the gentleness stomp of Hannibal Alp elephants. Taking back our settlements, induce relevant resonance. In full life, ancestral mind, no artificial intelligence. Men turn bionic, high off the seedless hydroponic. Thinking they on it, but what they on it must be demonic. Not Baphomet, Moroccan star on his head. Crescent moons of Islam, he uses Caduceus from Kemet. Sitting in meditation, goatee like a Rasta. Raised Kundalini light first off the crown chakra. Volcanic view, HD and panoramic. No ayahuasca root, seeing signs and symbols automatic. Didn't play odds, cause mine's so wide open. Maybe an omen, can't see truth cause your third eye's swollen. And it's not going down no matter what spell spoken. Or your devotion or golden potent potion. Can't even use water flows in Moorish shogun. Says the calcifying chambers now rest in the bottom of oceans. Left open, false prophets quoting and chasing. Minds under control like lasers for stealing, graving. Mental blocks and thought barricades the real enslaving. No cape, no type, no dynamic duo when I'm saving. With heads locked, hot brainwashed, don't think I'm breaking. Or e-boying, with scholars, very annoying. With hillbilly sovereigns, knowledge hee-hawing. Being sold out by my own is what has me worried.
Mental legislators, it's to wake you up out of your brainwash. Mental legislators, it's to wake you up out of your brainwash. Mental legislators, it's to wake you up out of your brainwash. Mental legislators, it's to wake you up out of your brainwash. Mental legislators, it's to wake you up, by attack. Wake you up out of your brainwash. Wake you up, by attack. Mental legislators, it's to wake you up out of your brainwash.
This is a homage feeling.
Summer's hot, but get cold when it's winter. My earth takes a break, quake cities off the cliff, down deep sea into mountain, continental shift. The continent could drown, a rift, there's more. Think not, you don't know what I'm into, where I'm at. It's all in the mental, smack all instrumentals round me. It's all about my circle squared up for my nature. Fear not, love bravely, am I didn't make her. She made me to create the world, the home she in shape for skin, container, frame, no minor. She a major win, angel and grew up educated on the demons, baby scaly wings, ranger paper bullshit, the motherfucker that got nothing to back. Negro black colored on the chopping block, still on the block, chopping whatever they rap, rob, recover the chop, the world's shaking. Still my words, you take it in, hear me speaking out your ear holes. How can you retain a quote? Stop, your brains bang, shot, but still you won't crow. Commander in chief, master and sheep at the battle. And stay chattel to eat, and wolf for my white beats. At times a werewolf, they attack me and turn food towards the garden. Cold water make a black sea. Black male, black clothes, black blues. Black lace, black ball, black shoes. Black male, black trees, black news. It's no such thing as black man. Black male, black clothes, black blues. Black lace, black ball, black shoes. Black male, black trees, black news. But no such thing as a black man. Roses all red, green, gun, copper shot, pop, bust, and he left, didn't leave no weeds, no seeds. I'm his skull and his backbone ripped with his voice tone moms are saying a heartbeat, consanguinity, no. Got some more bites, I was civil. I get you with my pen, no more dog fights or scribbles. Enforcing treaties, I'm a caustic greedy, dressed in costumes to greet me. You think you know how this is gonna end, really? Show the beginning. Apocalypse now, the dead don't know about the living. And why I can't kill them, and why I try to lift them. Stand, more mass don't make you a bigger man. It's mental. Just keep going. Black man, black clothes, black blues. Black face, black ball, black shoes. Black pill, black trees, black shoes. It's just such thing as black man. Black pill, black clothes, black blues. Black face, black ball, black shoes. Black pill, black trees, black shoes. But no such thing as a black man. Don't talk about it, talk about it. Don't talk about it, talk about it. Don't talk about it, talk about it. Don't talk about, talk about, 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 don't talk about, talk about. Don't talk about what you see behind closed doors. Don't talk about business that you know that ain't yours. Better not talk about what happened in '04, but you can talk about what you hear from Canaanland Moors. Bet you won't talk about when you were on all fours. The times you wanted to experiment, explore. Most don't talk about the childhood they endured. It's psychological, need I say more? But all you do is talk shit, yeah, I know that you're bored. Talk all you want about me, I've been learning to ignore. Don't talk about facts if you know you ain't sure. Let's talk about the reasons why we can't stop wars. Don't talk about it, talk about it. Don't talk about it, talk about it. Don't talk about, talk about, don't talk about, talk about, don't talk about, talk about, don't talk about, talk about. Don't talk about the trees and how you raided our shores. Disease for every season, let's talk about the cures. You don't want to
wanna talk about the properties of ore, the minerals and elements and what it's used for. Oh, don't talk about that, it's organic and pure. Talk about how the apple rottens you to the core. We'll talk about how radiation seeps through the pores. All we do is talk about the bloodshed and gore. Don't talk about it, talk about it, don't talk about it, talk about it, don't talk about, talk about, don't talk about, talk about, don't talk about, talk about, don't talk about, talk about. I talk a good game, but I leave it on the floor. Talk some respect on my name before your skull get poor. And I PVR that shit, so don't talk about the score. Some say I talk too much, but I never stop talk, that I assure. Don't talk about waking up the line if you don't want to hear it roar. No need to talk about the time she was acting like a whore. Well, let's talk about that thing on your lip right before I let you draw my split. That's looking like a sword. You could wait on the tail or twist this side or yeah, you better talk quick. Trust won't be restored. Don't talk about the plans of what we got in store. And let me hear you talk sorry about my boy Jam McGlure. Huh? My boy Jam McGlure. Don't let me hear you talk sorry about my boy Jam McGlure. What? Do your chores.
I know who this nigga's talking to. I know you ain't talking to me. You can be talking to me, cause you think you're high and mighty. Who are you to tell everybody what to do? Or who to tell? Who you judge, jury, and executioner? I know I talk when I want to talk. I do, say, talk, speak when I want to speak. How, when, what, why? Don't tell me what to do, nigga. You don't know me. Who the motherfucker you think you is? You can't talk to me.
Islam, Moors. Islam. Well, let's go right in. Let's go right in.
Tawamag, Kanitampag. Let's cut the squamson. Good day, family and friends. How are you doing? Nisu Wishawanak, Director General, Federation of Aboriginal Nations of America. Hoping this day finds you well. Back with another informational video. Just to give some perspective, this is, I guess we're a bit surprised. This is, I guess, still a engaging dialogue that's taking place, at least from what we've been seeing on social media lately and whatnot. And especially following up on the last video that was put up talking about the Snyder Act 2020 census, but pertinent to today's discussion, Moorish Aboriginals. Wanted to do a video today just kind of clearly laying out just three basic reasons why. Indians are not Moors. There's three basic reasons why Indians are not Moors. And I'm going to do this in a 1-3-2 manner. The one being first, what the answer to that question should be. And in our opinion, there's only one answer to that question. The three being three separate perspectives to view it from, so that you'll understand that calling Indians Moors doesn't make sense. It's not appropriate. It's not accurate. And then lastly, the two is the two reasons why someone's telling you that. But for the short title, we'll call it 3 reasons why Indians aren't Moors. And this is very pertinent discussion to have, because when you look at what we're going to do, what I'll be touching upon today, you'll understand that when you attempt to do that, you're really doing damage to the individuals who are the Indians. So let's start first with the one answer you give when someone says Indians are Moors. And that answer is no, they're not. That's the one and only answer that anyone should be giving when the conversation comes up that Indians are Moors. No.
Islam, Moor.
Islam, Moor. Islam.
No, we're
Can you hear me?
yeah, I'm hearing you more.
Okay.
Yeah, my bad. Of course, we always have to check. We always have to check the scholars. We always have to check the scholars. So one of our first stops with regard to whole Indian stuff and all that. This is Othello's Children in the New World, Jose Pimienta Bay, page 59. Remember, one of the points is Moors always give you reference points. Moors will never leave you stranded, leave you hanging, wishing you had some information to back up what certain people are telling you. But we're just going to give you what it is straight. So you have no excuses, because Jose Pimenta Bay is a PhD. You know, you guys came and made a YouTube page yesterday. He's PhD. Don't play around like trying to make some mockery on Moors. Because we already know you black Indians sold out. We already know you tribal, UN recognized whoever Moors sold out. And then there's Moors who recognize the sellout and they quickly jump away from those ships or whatever and started giving this back to the people to let them know that they are the Moors, the true Aboriginal and Indigenous Americans. This Jose Pimenta Bay. In South America, the German art historian and collector Alexander von Wutenau describes a group of heads produced by Mixtec artists from the Oaxaca region of Mexico as quote-unquote Moorish looking. The heads are from the post-classic 900 to 1500 CE. He also refers to a superb Moorish-looking clay sculpture of the Veracruz Classic period. There is also a Classic era Veracruz sculpture described by Wutenau as fine characterization of an old man with hat. The quote-unquote hat looks identical to a Moroccan-style fez. Von Wutenau also depicts a series of female terracotta heads from Guerrero, Mexico, which he says reflects the traditional headdress worn by Moroccan Sephardi brides. Leo Weiner compared the clothes of Peruvian women to that of quote-unquote Moorish women. The Smithsonian published text, The Native Americans, 1991, actually described the head coverings of the Osage and Arikara of the Southeast Plains as quote-unquote turbans. Young Seminole men are also shown wearing what the text calls quote-unquote turbans, which resemble Maghrebi fezes. The 5-point star, which has historically been a primary motif of the Moors, is also found to be a prominent symbol among the Plains Indians like the Osage and Crow. The Navajo, the largest of the North American tribes, possesses a symbolic shape called the Naja, N-A-J-A, a crescent moon. This shape, often found in jewelry, is described in Smithsonian text as spreading from Muslim North Africa to Spain, then to Mexico, then to the Navajo. That's PhD. Our fellow children in the New World, Jose Pimienta Bay. There's a lot more.
There's a lot more.
You have anything to add to that?
Right. Now, 'cause I can't believe that he even said that, you know, first of all, it's colored. Moors can't be Indians. We already know that. But we know what he means. So we're going to play the game, and we're going to continue on because he's trying to say that we're not the Aboriginal people. Okay, let's go. Well, I got a book called The Absence of America, the London Stage, 1576 to 1642. It's coming from Greene. And Greene quotes another book called The Spanish Masquerade from 1589. And he says, quote, a company of naked Moors are attacked by conquistadors in New Spain. But as the narrative continues, they are described as Indians hunted with dogs, so to be torn with horses, some to hew the hands cut off. But then again, I mean, right there it shows you that Moors, that they were known as Moors. It says a company of naked Moors are attacked by conquistadors in New Spain. That's here. But as the narrative continues, they're described as Indians. So this whole thing about the Moors aren't Indians that's false. And another thing, you can go on their website, the Nantucket and Lenape Confederation. You can go on their website, and they tell you that. And hold on, just had it. Okay. In the 1870s, a community of Indians also established their own school in the area where we're going to do the quote-unquote Indians. Also established their own school in the area of modern-day Chesswood in Kent County, which was called Moortown. This group, commonly referred to as Moors, is cited to have been in the area since at least 1710. Now that's on the Delaware and the Lenape Nantucket Confederation. That's on their website. So I don't know what he's saying as a quote-unquote Indian, but on this website, which they say they're Indians themselves, they say that there was people here called Moors, at least since 1710.
Right.
So they say themselves. You know?
And then if you,
I don't. Yeah, go ahead,
no, I was just gonna say that. And if you're saying that Indians aren't Moors, then what the hell about these people right here? Because these are Indian Moors. Like these are Indian Moors. Turbans, fezzes.
Right.
So if you're telling me Indians aren't Moors, but then we can just go on little Google images or whatever, and they're gonna show you Indians that call themselves Moors, then somebody's playing games with you.
Right.
Somebody's playing games with you. Because we know that over here is not India. And the place where it's called India, they have Moors there. So these Johnny-come-lately Indians can't say that they're Indians. And again, denationalizing you. Openly, documented, denationalize you. Take you out of your vast estate, put you into some jurisdiction. Who even knows what jurisdiction you're getting put in? Because if you're Indian, you shouldn't be in America.
And if you are in America and you're telling me that you're Indian, then you're a naturalized U.S. citizen. Yep, that's all they do. So the game that they're playing, don't fall for it. It's all it's all good.
Because that makes you a foreign. That's what makes you a foreign national. Because he tried to say that Moors themselves are foreign nationals too in that video. But once you say you're Indian, that's what makes you a foreign national, because this ain't India.
And because you're foreign, that's why you're sitting here playing around that you're not Moors, because that is directly related to the Inquisition tactics to get us to not be Moors. Now they have your own doing it to you. Mental inquisition.
Right.
Moor means any dark-skinned person. And you're playing around that you're Indians, 2018, out of your mouth saying that our people are Indians. Everybody knows that this is not India over here.
Right.
Everybody knows that Indians come from India. That's the only place that Indians come from. Indians don't come from anywhere else. And remember that India is really Hindustan. So they're really playing you when they're saying that you're Indian. Because Indian's a corporation. A British corporation. And you're here, you're listening to these people? They're not Moors, but they're Indian, which is a corporation. That's a documented fact that that's a corporation.
Right.
You tell me these people aren't denationalizing you? Lovingly, brotherly, lovingly denationalizing you. You have anything to add before we go on?
You nailed it right in the coffin with the India being the British company. Like, they enslaving you squared. It's already a brand. Indian is like saying black. It's the same thing as being black. They're brands. They're Roman brands. Indian, black. That's why, and that's the other thing too. That's why when he refers to the census and Indians being on the census, blacks, whites, whatever, being on the census, I don't think people ever looked up the word census. If you look up the definition of the word census, census means Roman property. So even if you're saying you're on the census, you're saying that you're Roman property. Willingly, because you fill it out. And then say you're Indian.
Volunteer.
That's voluntarily say that you're Roman property. And then you choose what property you are. You be like, okay, I'm that property, Indian. They doing that's what that is. That's what a census is. Census means Roman property. You can look it up. Look it up. It means Roman property. It don't mean what they I can fill it out and that's what my nationality. I don't mean that, man. That means Roman property. And that's what's coming up in 2020. They're about to do another scan to see what property belongs to Rome.
Yep. Inventory.
They're doing their inventory.
Right. Right. And everybody's in a panic. People, human beings are in a panic.
Yeah. All these squares trying to go into circle holes.
Right. I yield the square.
Don't get trapped. What Noble Ali brought to you, man, don't forget he was Cherokee, by the way. Oh yeah, speaking about Cherokee, why don't we just talk about that quick fast? Let's just beat them in the head early.
Right. Okay.
Right now, I have up on the screen McIntosh County, Georgia, qpublic.net, parcel IDs and acreage and owners and whatever. So right now we're looking at Van Doris Williams and Leonard Van's property. Just give us a breakdown what we're looking at and then go to the other thing and yeah. You might be muted.
I was definitely muted. Okay. Now, if you look at the yes, Grand Sheik, if you scroll, right? Now, don't scroll on the main one yet. Scroll, okay. There's another, okay, let me start from the beginning. All right. The straw name or whatnot that is applied to my quote-unquote family would be Van. That's the last title of my, well, the name of I think they gave me. But then, so, well, my family was the Van family. Now, if you look up on the Cherokee Census roll, that's that word census again, Roman property, my family's on there as the Van. Now, the Leonard Van on there, if you can see the Leonard Van, that's my father. Doris Williams is my grandmother. And Adolphus Williams would be my great-great-grandfather. Now, on the land, now, Grand Sheik, if you scroll on the bottom one,
yeah,
and you click on that,
yeah.
Okay, the name is still, what is it? Van Doris?
Williams, Adolphus,
yep.
And Carolyn.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. You see, the Williams, that's my great-grandfather. Now, everything you're seeing, you know, the computer, it doesn't give it its justice, but that's my family. My father's there right now. That land, that's another acre of land right there, and, like, that's my family right there, but nobody's there. But in those woods, you can see the trees and stuff right behind it. In those trees, there's houses in those trees that my family built. Now, I'm showing you this because, again, my family would be quote-unquote Cherokee Indian. Again, you can go on the census roll, like the Sam Van and the James Van that was in the Cherokee Confederate wars back in the day. That's my family. But when you look up on the internet and you type in those names for the Cherokee Confederation, Europeans pop up. But I have pictures of my family, of those people in my father's living room right now. And that's my family. That's not no Europeans. Like, no, those are really my family members. And, okay, so this is the land right here. So that's Adolphus Williams. That's my great-great-grandfather. What he ended up doing was he bought this land off of another Moor, another Cherokee Indian. His title was quote unquote Mr. McIntosh, and that's where McIntosh County comes from. The whole McIntosh is an Indian quote unquote tribe, but we also know as soon as you see Mick is Moorish. So even the town itself is still Moorish. It says McIntosh County, Georgia. That was the name of the Indian, McIntosh, Chief McIntosh. My grandfather bought the land off of him. So we still have this land right here. Now, Grand Sheik, if you put, now, when they say that we're Indians, I'm not Indian, I'm a Moor. Now, if you scroll up, you can see one of my grandfather's children, which would be my great uncle. His name is on the property. Because I got a lag, so I got to wait.
Yeah. Williams Adolphus Sr., care of James M. Bay.
There he is. Now, that's my great uncle, James Bay. Now, that's not Cherokee. That's what I found when I was looking up my family right here. James Bay, that's my great uncle. He's quote unquote Cherokee, but he knows he's not Cherokee. That's why his last appellation will be Bay. That's why he corrected it right there on the land, title Bay. Now, when I found this information, crazy. I look. One of the more said, definitely not no damn Turtle Island. So,
no Teenage Mutants around here, yo.
Right. Now, Grand Sheik, if you look, right, at this, because I'm going to keep going, but if you look at that yellow line,
yeah,
it says Williams, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now, if you keep scrolling, that thing goes for miles. But today, we only have 5 acres. But the whole name of the street goes for all the way to the highway. None of that's ours anymore. We lost all that land. That's all we have now. But the whole name of the street is called Williams Way. The whole thing is Williams. All the way, if you start going up, like towards north, up the screen,
right.
that whole all the way to the highway is Williams Way. Hundreds, if not maybe a couple thousands of acres of land that thing is all Williams. All that is Williams. All of that. But we lost all of that land. Now again, when I found this on the website, I go on the internet, I'm looking. I call my father because I'm astounded by the information that I found. And my father's on the land, so I'm calling him, bothering him to try to see what's going on. And he doesn't know too much, or sometimes I ponder on that too, because different things do come up months later when I ask him a question again. But on this specific day, I'm talking about James Bay, and he's telling me, yeah, that's your great uncle, he owns land, he's on the land too. And I'm trying to explain to my father why he's who he is and why he could probably correct. I'm trying to see if he corrected his status or was he born like that. I'm trying to figure it out because I don't know who he is. So my father doesn't know neither. He's like, I don't know. I just know him as James, and as my cousin James, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So the next day, my father calls him. The next day, now my father, he's already. Oh, I haven't seen James since we was, quote unquote kids or whatever, growing up. And the next day, he calls me to tell me, son, you won't believe who showed up at on the land the other day. And I'm talking, oh. Yeah, your great uncle, James Bay, he showed up to the land the next day after I found out about this information. He just showed up. And my father and him, he gave me his number. I tried to call him. I left a message or whatnot. We never got back in contact. But then I ended up finding out more information that there's a temple out in McIntosh County. There's a Moorish Science temple out there. And I never even heard about none of this. And again, I'm not Cherokee. My bloodline, I'm a Moor. I'm a Moor. That my great uncle James Bay got the proof right there. He got his title on the land. I just coming into the information, He's been doing this for years. I didn't know this. You know, just doing some research. Yeah, unbelievable, right there. Y'all, that's not Yusuf website. That's McIntosh County Public.net. I didn't write that. That's their stuff. They got their imaginary border lines on there. We know those lines don't exist. That's how I also know my land was more than what it was.
That's crazy.
No, I got it right there. It's right there. Right there. My grandfather, I got pictures of my nana, Doris Williams. I have pictures of her with the black fez on. I was trying to send them to you, Grand Sheik, but it was half time.
Yeah, you know.
I'm gonna send them to you though. I'm gonna send them to you.
Straight.
And this is in my nana, probably at the time in the 50s. My grandfather, great-great-grandfather, he came over here on a sawmill. Him and his brother built a sawmill. They're from Antigua. So that would be the quote-unquote West Indians, the Caribbean people over there, which we know were Moorish. We know that the Moors was over there in the Caribbean. That's not even hard, you know. But
and again, pardon the interjection, Mark. Again, the West Indies got its name from the same Christopher Columbus BS that he thought he was in India. So the people are the Indians. If the people are the West Indies, if the people are from a place called the West Indies, how come they don't call themselves Indians?
Yeah.
How come the people in the West Indies call themselves Trinidadian, Jamaican, whatever? They don't say that they're Indians. They're from the West Indies. But you're going to let some mainland Moors tell you about they're not Moors and you're Indians. When the people in the West Indies don't even call themselves Indians. Go ahead, Mark.
Right. Now, my great-grandfather, him and his two brothers. Now, okay. First of all, the Adolphus Williams, right? Let's go in on that. The Adolphus Williams, that's not my grandfather's true title. But my grandfather was never a slave. He came over here in the late 19th century, but he was never a slave. He got they gave him his title. They told him, because we can't pronounce yours. So they gave him Adolphus Williams. That's how my grandfather got his title. Just like Nelson Mandela, when they told him that wasn't even, his real title wasn't a Christian name, so they named him Nelson. They gave my grandfather a Christian name. That's what they just give it to you. You don't have to be a slave to be given a Christian name. They'll just do it. They'll just do it. Get it over with. Now, again, so my grandfather came over from Antigua, and when him and his two brothers, this was in the late 19th century, him and his two brothers built a sawmill from Antigua. And when they came here, they first landed in Boston, quote unquote Boston. And when they went to Boston, one of my uncles stayed. He stayed in Boston. My grandfather got back on the sawmill and came down to Darien, Georgia, and bought the land off of Mr. McIntosh, the Cherokee Indian. That's how the Moors of my family started coming to up here, you know. But I'm just not no Cherokee Indian, not no Turtle Island, you know. And I want people to Google sawmills in the 19th century. These people were building houses on boats and traveling. It wasn't just what people think, you know what I mean? It was houses built on boats, and they was traveling across. That's what my grandfather and his two brothers was building. We talking about true Masons. True. My grandfather got wills from the 19th century. He broke down the land. Who can get what? I can email you that too, Grand Sheik. I got letters from the 18th century from Adolphus Williams. Who was supposed to get what? who can do what on the land, all of that. The notes he had 200 notes. And he had $200. I'm sorry. He had $200 in real gold and silver and broke it down between him and his family at the time in the 19th century. And we still got that land to this day. We still got that land. I go down there back and forth. And it's crazy too, because when you're going down there, everybody thinks the Crescent City is just in New Orleans. You know, Crescent City is in Darien, Georgia too, quote unquote. But we also know Georgia is Egypt, according to the exotic map. But there's tons of names where, like, there's an Egypt, Georgia. You can Google Egypt, Georgia. There's really a town called Egypt, Georgia. And my grandmother, who Adolphus married, her name was Margaret Stewart. And we all know Stewart is a Moorish appellation. You know what I'm saying? That means dark skin. That's why I was going crazy. This guy up here talking about we're definitively not Moors, they're Indians. Like, come on, man. I'm not. James Bay, my great uncle, he's right there on the land.
Right there on the land. Right there on the land. James Bay, Cherokee.
Right. Cherokee.
Cherokee. Anyanuya.
Yep.
But he knows Bay though. He knows Bay though. Forget all that BS about
not Chief Featherfoot, not Chief,
yeah, none of that.
Thunderbolt, none of that. None of that. None of that. James Bay.
James Bay.
None of that.
Another quick one from Jose Pimenta Bay. Well, let me hit this one. Chief Stateless for real. Winters says, page 77, in Mexico, Mande Muslims were in the majority, though there were also some Fula, Tukulor, and Masi Muslims as well. The legacy of the Mande Muslim in Mexico today are seen in the Amerindian magic and the numerous places in Mexico which bear their name. In addition, we observe Mande Islamic religious traditions among the Indians and Mande words in the Nahuatlan language, Othomi, and Nantico language. Even today, some Indians pray facing east. But they're not Moors though, right? They're Indians facing east to pray, but they're not Moors. They're not Moors, but they're facing east to pray. Again, it is significant that all such ethnic groups mentioned occupy the historic boundaries of quote-unquote Moorish dominions. The connection to the Nanticoke is particularly relevant as this Delaware-based nation specifically asserts Moorish origins and has a sister nation known as the Moors. Winters also informs us about the African Muslim presence and influences upon Brazil. He states, in Rio de Janeiro, Muslims were called alufas, while in the rest of Brazil, they were called males. This term originated from the fact that the people who spread Islam in Africa were Mande speaking from the Empire of Mali. Besides the Yoruba Muslims, who were the majority in Brazil, called themselves Imale, or people of Mali, thus M-A-L-E, Mali.
Winters also points out that most of the documents written by the South American Muslims of Brazil are in the Maghreb style. This would also compound the work and conclusions by Barry Fell. Once again, we see evidence of a distinctly Moorish cultural link. He's more.
Peace more. PhD.
PhD. Not YouTube scholar. PhD.
Telling you.
Who you going with? You going with the YouTube guy? Came yesterday? Or you going with the PhD?
Telling you.
If you're going with the engines that don't even have tracks to ride on, you're probably not gonna go too far. Engines need tracks.
Fame and nobility. That's all they want. That's all they want.
All they want to do is be the guy that did whatever for the whoever.
That's it. How can you say? I can't believe he even thought to think.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
The Aboriginal people.
I straight forgot that we were listening to that. Let's go back here some more. I forgot. 2 minutes in. How long we been going for? What the hell?
I told you.
What the hell?
I told you. Dang, it's already been an hour.
It's been an hour. 2 minutes, yo. We're not even gonna have to beat all of this up.
No, they're not. Indians are not Moors. And I'm going to get into the reasoning behind that in one moment, but I just want to reiterate. Indians are not Moors. We here at the Federation, I can speak to my people, I can speak to Pokanokets, I can speak to the Nipmucks that are in the area. You know, we have always known who we were. We just could not figure out how to navigate this system of colonization that was upon us. But at no point did we ever not.
How you navigate the system is be a Moor. The only way that you're going to navigate the system. Why? Because of the relationship between these so-called colonists and the dark-skinned people of the planet who they know are the Moors.
Yes.
That's the only way. You can't be something else. The only way you're going to be able to navigate in this, what we called mad human drama, is by having a nationality and recognizing that that nationality for you, Negro, Black, Colored, Indian, Ethiopian, whoever, is really Moors. Yeah, you're the Aboriginal, Indigenous, Native American, autochthonous, whatever. Yeah, you're that, but you're Moors. Stop playing the division of yourself. You're dividing yourself. Like, you're not helping anybody, dividing yourself. You have anything else more?
Yeah,
With regard to the navigating the system, because you know, because they're Indians, obviously you can't navigate the system because you're Indian.
But see, that's the truth and falsehood strangely mixed. There wasn't no mention of navigating the system until Moors brought it up. Indians never even had the thought of navigating the system.
That too.
Moors brought that into the light. You got that from Moorish.
Yeah.
You got that. That whole thing is from Moorish, and then you tried to make it apply to you.
Yeah.
Y'all was never talking like this.
Right.
Never.
Right.
Never. Remember, I'm Cherokee. Remember? I just showed you it. I'm Cherokee. We never talked like this. I can tell you that. We never talked like this. It was just my nana come up. Remember, you Indian. You not. That's all she would tell us. You Indian. You know, and then you would go think that it would be whatever you see on TV. You never would do no research because nobody was doing that. They didn't start doing research until the Moors came around. I never heard. None of this was going on. None of this was going on. None of this is going on. And the way he talking and make it, like, I would like to go to, the quote unquote powwows and stuff, because I'm Aboriginal indigenous to the land. But the way what he's doing is causing division. Now if I show up, now is there people like him gonna be thinking the way he's thinking? Because of the schism he's trying to spread. Right. The truth, that for the fame and nobility, he's ready to do all of this. The whole thing is like what the Grand Sheik was showing with the Hawaiians, the quote unquote Hawaiians. Yeah. These colonists have taken our land and corporations. We need to come up with a nationality who we are. Well, we did that already. We Moors. This guy over here is still talking about India, British companies, still trying to put you back into corporations. Yep.
Lovingly.
That's what that is.
Lovingly.
Yep.
Because remember, these are your brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, these are your brothers.
Yep. This is Grand Sheik. When they say, remember, the ancient Romans are the Moors. You see, yeah. You see that man right there? That's a Roman. Yep. That's a Roman right there. The evil stuff that they do, they think Romans is skin complexion. There they go again.
Yep. Playing themselves.
Nope. That's a Roman. That's Constantine and his family right there. That's them. Right there, causing all of these problems.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. One more thing too. It just hit me that I don't even think we talked about. That even though Ujwali's Cherokee, and he didn't say he was Cherokee.
Right.
He didn't say Indian.
Right. That's the main killer. He knew that was a fraud. All that stuff is new. You can Google it. All that Indian tribe stuff is new. All that was applied when Europeans came over here. All that. The word Indian wasn't established to Morocco over here until 1560 something. And that's when they came over here. That word wasn't even used over here until Europeans came over here. And that's what he's saying he is now. They're saying we are. I don't even know, because I'm trying to. Nah, he said we were Indians. He's saying we're Indians, like, because even when you continue on in the video, he's gonna even divide the tribes. He's gonna say all the tribes aren't the same people. Like he divides everything, and I'm like, okay, he has no base of how science goes for us as humans. He went straight in the tribes, which is Roman. If you look up the definition of tribe means three. It was three separation of powers for Rome. That's what it means. That's what it means. They can research it. They don't though. They don't.
Exactly. Which is what the point is. That these people don't research. Right? They're gonna have their how much ever hours video or whatever, not show you one book or nothing like that. They're just flying off the handle. And when Moors try to, change these people's concepts, by actually putting out information to really make people think for real. Not just BS people are putting out about they're here to make you think when all they're doing is plagiarizing other people's stuff.
And the add-on brand sheet, and then they start this campaign of, oh, the Moors are going to tell you the word means this, the word means that. We're insane for using definitions.
Right. Yeah.
Like we're the frowned upon people, but they're over there using definitions.
Yeah.
Like what are you talking about? What do you mean? We're over here using that. The Moors are going to tell you the word means this. Yeah. You better.
Because that's what the word means. What you want?
They make it seem like it's bad. It's just crazy how they do that. That, like, you know, when Moors try to tell you what it is, you make it seem like, oh, now they talking, like when they put up that In Living Color scene with Damon Wayans talking intelligently and shit.
Yeah.
Like, what do you come on, man.
Yeah.
What do you, as soon as somebody wants to better themselves, you got dumb nigger who's gonna always try to throw something, oh, he's over here trying to be like Damon Wayans in jail. Like, brother, come on, man. I never been in jail in my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, how you gonna say something like that? That's somebody. And that's the other thing too. People be like, oh, that's that jail talk, brother. I ain't never been to jail in my life. That's me studying at home.
And then even if you put it on that level, if this is some jail talk, yeah, even
right.
Even if that's the case, then okay, how come you not repping it?
Right.
Because all your freaking leader, whoever's went to fucking jail.
Yep.
All of them.
Yep.
All your leaders, whoever went to jail. So what do you mean?
Yep.
What do you mean though that's jail talk? How's the jail talk? Black Panthers were on some constitutional enforcement. That's jail talk. You rep some Panthers though. You're not gonna rep Moors, but you rep some Panthers. Oh, you're gonna rep some Rastafarian whatever. But Emmanuel was telling y'all about go to the UN and enforce Article 15 of the UN declarations.
Right.
What do you think he's telling you? Nationality is the order of the day. But just like Indian, your nationality is not black.
Right.
It's not a nationality. Don't even give it the power of a nationality because the power is going to be useless because that ain't no nationality.
You started a whole nother debate too. Not even a debate, just a whole nother destroy, Hulk smash with all your leaders went to jail. All your leaders were kidnapped. Okay, yep. All the leaders who wanted, better life for us, our people.
Got assassinated. Got set up, false charges put on them, freaking people throwing stuff in their window, whatever. Oh, but y'all want to just have new shoes and just walk around and pose up like the conscious whoever's.
Right. But then you got today still the same thing. All the Moors, because they make it seem like it's a bad thing. All the Moors who are standing on their square with a European, pull them over, or detain them, or hinder them while they're on the road. They standing up for their rights, just like their leaders were. They
exactly.
They get kidnapped and looked at like, oh, see, all the Moors go to jail.
Yeah.
Malcolm Hodge went for standing up for his freedom. Malcolm went for standing up for his freedom, but you have your new quote unquote black leaders who won't even see who ain't even have a whiff of the inside. They didn't even have a whiff of the inside. All of them never went into the belly of the beast. You think Sanetta got pulled over right in front of us, and he is being the scary, slave nigger he was, gave up license and got to be able to go home. But that's your leader. He's not gonna stand up for his freedom. He's gonna sit there and scream.
Assimilate. Yeah, we're gonna assimilate.
And they don't, none of them. Dr. Umar, I ain't never heard you go to jail for standing up for no freedom, but you for your people. As soon as the Moors do it, oh, the Moors, all they do is go to jail, brother.
Yep.
All the great ones do. All the great ones do.
And they're going to jail for your punk coward ass.
Right.
They're going to jail so you could have some rights. They're getting assassinated. They're getting tormented so you could be a good nigger and go buy some European shit instead of supporting your own. And then everybody's against the Indians. The Indians need to do this and the blacks need to whatever. And that's why you get no respect. Zero respect. And this is what we're bringing back. People respect Moors, even if they get kidnapped. Because we know Moors that got kidnapped, and when they're in the back, they're billing with the highwayman.
Yeah.
Because at that point it's beyond officer and all that stuff. It's beyond that. Because that's only a front for the dumb public.
Yeah.
Right? You think Moors haven't gone to court and that highwayman come to us and say, hey man, like what you guys are doing and standing up for law and all that. Prosecutors, judges, whoever.
Yeah.
Not like we need that or they have to do that. But everybody respects the Moors. Even the people who hate the Moors respect the Moors, or they wouldn't hate them.
Yeah.
They wouldn't hate on Moors so hard if they didn't respect where Moors are coming from.
Only people who hate Moors is Moors.
Yep. Which is crazy.
It's the craziest thing ever. That's insanity. How did he do that? How did we do that? Look at him. Look at the guy. That's a Moor right there telling you you're a British Indian company. 2,000 views. People are watching this. 170 likes. People agree with this nonsense.
Try to watch out a little more.
I mean, yeah, I ain't
Doing nothing.
Beat him up. Because he talks crazy.
Know who we were, and we knew that we were Indians was the term that that was utilized. What they called us, Indians. And then later on, people started getting into the Native American stuff, but Indians. I'm a Narragansett Indian. That's what you would hear. I'm a Narragansett Indian. So we have always known that we are Indians. It was not until we started to move into the understanding of higher level understandings of how we interact with the law that the term Moor came about.
Yeah, go ahead, Bart.
He just said that when the colonists came here that they called you Indians. And then we started referring to ourselves as Narragansett Indians. We were calling ourselves Indians. But you just said, like, it's literally 15 seconds before he said that. He just said that they came over and started calling us Indians. And then you said we started calling ourselves Indians. Like, brother, get this dude off of the screen. We're trying to say conversation over. Conversation is over. Conversation is over.
Conversation's over. Conversation's over.
You didn't even try to clear your throat, muffle over it, or nothing. You just said it like they're gonna miss this. No, I didn't miss it. I heard you. I heard you. You just said they came over and called us Indians, and then we started calling ourselves You would start hearing people say Narragansett Indians, and you started calling ourselves Indians. This dude's amazing, man.
All right.
Amazing.
Let's see this now. This is literary chants, essays on Native American survivance by Gerald Visnor, Vizenor, Gerald Visnor. Page 11. Each word and every new and ordinary combination of words in sentences creates a unique provenance of thought, usage, and meaning. The words are traces of oral stories and scripture silence, an elusive experience of absence and presence actuated by readers. Our stories and literature seldom wait alone for meeting at the margins of perception or translation. Native stories and literature are eternal traces of survivance. There are many words that have no provenance, no measurable freight of precedent, no clear representation or patency. One such word is Indian. The noun, as in American Indian, the word Indian is a misnomer. And in these essays, the word outside of quotations is italicized to remind the reader that the meaning of Indian is obscure, even unthinkable. The new shorter Oxford English Dictionary enters the word Indian with 5 references to the meaning. The first is a native or inhabitant of the subcontinent of India. The second reference is a member of any of the Aboriginal peoples of America. The other entries refer to language spoken by American Indian people and an indigenous inhabitant of the Philippines. More than 30 special collocations are noted, such as Indian ink, Indian tobacco, Indian path, and Indian giver. The Indian misnomer is ironic, a noun with elusive, uncertain meaning and provenance. The Indian has no native ancestors. The Indian has no native ancestors. The original crease of the Indian simulation is Columbian. Christopher Columbus, the adventurer, first thought he had arrived in India. Consequently, the name Indian has no native referent nor measurable freight of precedent on the continent. The Indian is a nominal simulation, the absence, not the presence, of natives in the aesthetic ruins of simulations. The word Indian transposes the real, a colonial coalescence of thousands of distinct native cultures and communities in one misnomer. The Indian simulation of the real has no referent, no cultural memories or native stories. Clement Visnor, my father, was Anishinaabe by community and ancestry, born on the White Earth Reservation in northern Minnesota, but he was named an Indian by simulation. The federal census counted him as Indian, not Anishinaabe, the absence, not the presence, of natives. He was the Indian other in the archive, the documents of dominance, and in a sense, the double other in the enumeration of Indians on the census.
The Anishinaabe were removed, superseded by the Indian misnomer in federal documents. Gerald Vizenor, son of Clement Vizenor, the Anishinaabe, who was named Indian by simulation. You need more than that? You need more than Gerald Vizenor? To prove the point that the Indian is a fraud, and anybody speaking from that perspective is giving you no native reference.
None.
No measurable freight of precedent when they call you Indian. They're saying you're a nominal simulation when they call you Indian. You're a simulation as an Indian. These are the people that you're going to put your trust in to go speak to some Europeans on your behalf? These people. Michael Yellowbird, what we want to be called. How I loathe the term Indian. Indian is used to sell things, souvenirs, cigars, cigarettes, gasoline, cars. Indian is a figment of the white man's imagination.
That's a hurt one, man. That hurt. That hurts, bro. That hurts.
And they have the Indian in the good in the quote unquote, just so you know.
Right.
Right? And don't forget to also check out Ronald Wright's book, Stolen Continents. The article reeked of political correct nonsense. The article, confusingly, bounces back and forth between calling certain individuals Indians and then calling them Native Americans. I'm Native American with no American Indian ancestry. What's more, the term American, Native, or otherwise is more applicable when referring to those born in this country and especially to those who support the ideals of America. Those who need a government-recognized ethnic racial identity do not support the ideals of America and therefore are far less worthy of the term American than the supporters of this one nation. And don't forget, 1755, the Moors Indian Charity School. Don't forget them. Since Moors aren't Indian, just remember.
Yeah.
Just remember.
Not one reference, Rishi. He don't have one reference, not one. He used one reference, the Bouvier.
Oh yeah, Bouvier. Oh yeah, what did he look up? Oh yeah, they looked up more. They looked up more. You have anything there to look up more in?
Oh.
Because they talked about the law definition with the Isle of Man and all that.
Right. Let me grab the Black Law real quick. Then called me a foreign national after he read it.
Oh yeah, let me find.
Like, how did you get that? I'm the lawmaker of the land. So the right there, and then he had the audacity to say he doesn't even know what it means. I said, okay, then you're not qualified to speak.
You're not even qualified to speak.
You're not qualified. You said it yourself. You don't know what it means. Okay, you're not qualified. You're not conversation over.
Yep.
This guy's still here talking. Conversation been over.
And if they're so Indian, how come they're not the Federation of Indian Nations of America?
Right.
Right?
They know they're not.
Whatever nation is going to come as their name. If they have an organization, it's going to be in the name or relative to their nation or whatever. But these guys are Aboriginal nations. But I thought they said that they're tribes.
Yep.
So are you nation or are you a tribe? So you can't be both of them and have any claim. Yeah, you found your stuff you were looking for?
Right. More. Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, page 1159. More. An officer in the Isles of Man who summons the courts for the several cheatings. The office is similar to the English bailiff of 100.
Yeah, you left that part out.
Yeah, you know, come on.
Yeah, you left that part out.
You know, truth and falsehood strangely mixed.
Strangely mixed.
That's all they can do. Because if you say the whole thing, oh, now, wait a minute, you can break that down. Yeah, you can break that down. What do you mean? So one of them, one more means 100 ballots? Is that what you said? Oh, okay. Like what's a ballot and all of that? One more means 100 of those.
Yep, but they're not going there. No going there.
One.
No going there.
He says the Indian, according to the Bovier's 1969, is one that's Aboriginal indigenous. And he says, why wouldn't you want to be Aboriginal indigenous to the land? Why would you want to be, what is it? An officer in the Isles of Man, whatever that means. That's what he was saying.
Yeah.
You know, because he's saying he don't know what it means.
Right.
Well, why? If you're the Aboriginal indigenous to the land, okay, cool. I ain't mad at that. But according to the dictionary, I'm the Moor. I determine everything that goes down on this land. How about that? You can be it. I determine everything that goes down on it because I'm the officer.
Yep.
On the Isles of Man. The Isles is islands. That's the land. Everything is land. That's where the Moors run. That's what the Moors is. I'm the officer. You can be but we already know he's being, you know, he's being redundant. The Moors are the Aboriginal indigenous people to the land. That's what makes us the officers of the land.
Yeah.
That's why, like, he's being redundant. Because he only used that one definition for Indian. That one book. Because as soon as you go look in the dictionary says the same definition, right?
Yeah.
It says the same definition he said that the Bouvier says. But what? Moors, we read. We know how to study. As soon as you keep reading, what does the Grandmaster Abdullah teaches? The etymology is in the brackets. He didn't say that though. The etymology of Indian in the brackets is Greek, India from Indos, Latin Indos, the Sindhu River in the East, Aborigines of the East.
Of the East. This is not East over here, gentlemen.
But they don't say that with the Eton. He just told you what the modern colonizer definition was, and he's rolling with that.
Yep.
He's rolling with that. That's what. And then adjust his glasses one more time right after he said it. He adjusted his glasses. He adjusts his glasses a lot. I'm trying to do the research of that. If that's a symbol of something, I haven't seen anything yet. It could just mean that he needs some new glasses.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna kill him yet. I mean, we already off his head because he only been talking for 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yo,
the video's 31 minutes.
3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
He should have never got 2,000 views. Never.
Crazy.
The first 3 minutes, you already know he's BSing. First 3 minutes. This wasn't hard.
First 3 minutes.
Couldn't tell. He told you. He didn't even know what it means. And then he's gonna go in a half hour about why we're not Moors. You just told me he didn't know what it meant. But you're gonna say we're not that? You just said you didn't know what it means.
And we have James Bay to prove that we're Moors.
Right. My great uncle. Shutting stuff down.
Because he's Cherokee. We have Noble Drew Ali. And we have Brother Yusuf on the line too. Cherokees. That they're not playing that Indian BS. Because it's a fraud. They know that it's a fraud. Look how much land they lost because they claim to be Indian. You tell me that that's real? Look how much land they lost. Look what they have left compared to what they originally had. Right? Let's just back this up. Right? So the Williams, however long the Williams line is, that's how much it is.
It goes forever.
Let's just close James Bay right here. Right? So all the Williams, all this was their stuff. Right? All this. And then now, the last remnant, the last of the Mohicans, James Bay saved it. Only because Moors study do we know that this Moor is on the record being a landowner. Same stuff that Moors been teaching us about Moors and how we whatever. Well, here it is right here. James M. Bay. And James M. Bay, okay, how about this one? How do you deal with you're a Moor now and you just found out about your great uncle who's a Bay? Because I know we build on it. but like they have to.
I told you, I went crazy.
Yeah. Talk on it, boy. Talk on it.
I blew my father's phone up. Now, when I told y'all earlier, I know my father's holding back stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he might have been a Mason at a time. Even the fact, he gave me a Masonic ring and told me it was his ex-wife's ring. And I'm like, man, I don't believe that story. Because it don't add up. Look. When you look at it, look what I question him about stuff all the time, and he doesn't really want to give it to me. And when I find stuff, he'd be like, how did you find out about that? He's not more surprised. And he's more, and this is my own father. This is my father. So I know our people, I don't know if it's like they want to cover it up because they're trying to protect us from something. They don't want us to go out there and go, because it's real deep. With this paperwork, everything's paperwork. Remember that. Everything really is paperwork. Because there's some paperwork I got to go down south for. Me and my great uncle James Bay is supposed to get together and do. So I'm supposed to go back down south and get all this stuff taken care of. But that's why James was coming down. And my great uncle, he's happy to find the fact that his great nephew is a Moor. It's just me and him, and my sister and my son. That's gonna try to fight this thing. But we only got 3.9 acres left. They took hundreds and thousands. Dr. Borderman's land that's in my backyard, all of a sudden, where I'm gonna tell you a quick story about that. My grandfather in my backyard is the Pacific Ocean. So when I go home, I can go through the woods and go on the Pacific Ocean and go fishing all the time. But the thing is now, there's a guy it's a European back there that his name is Dr. Borderman. If you go on the picture, I think it said he owned like maybe 50 to 100 acres. He's behind my house. He owns 50 to 100 acres. And then the Pacific Ocean is right after it. My grandfather, when he lived there, he used to go through those woods, and he had a boat back there, and he used to go fishing. Now we have to ask permission from Dr. Borderman, the European, to walk through the woods to go fishing on the Pacific Ocean. That house is brand new. Dr. Borderman moved there in the 50s. I just showed you I got documentation that'll show you my family owned this house since the 19th century. Dr. Borderman and them just built that house and got 100 acres. Just took my land like it was nothing. I asked my father about it. He don't know nothing. He don't know nothing. I was on the phone with him one time. They went over there and just started building energy poles. You know, like the telephone poles they put in the neighborhoods. Yeah. They put 6 of them right on my land. I know I shouldn't have been doing it, but I was on the phone cussing my father out because I was like, "There's no way that that's supposed to be happening." Like, what do you mean they're just on the land putting up telephone poles? Like, you're not gonna say anything to anybody? Write you a letter that you know? No, none of that. They just do whatever they want. Still to this day. This was last summer. They still to this day. But that's why me and James Bay, my great uncle, my Uncle Bay, can't wait to meet him so I can call it that.
For real.
Uncle Bay.
Uncle Bay.
There he is.
Uncle Bay, boy. That one's gonna be crazy.
You know I'm gonna have to sit down interview with him.
Yeah.
So the first question, so you Cherokee, huh? Yeah, that's what they say. Yep. I know. He gonna say it just like that. That's what they say. Yeah, I know. Cause you got James Bay. And I keep, like I said, I didn't make that, Grand Sheik. I found that. Yep. That was I called my sister. My sister, the one that told me I was a Moor. You know, the Moor biter.
Yeah.
Was always the one.
Yeah.
So when I showed her this, she was in awe. She lost it. We already know we Moors, but to see it in your own family, like in my own, like I could touch that. You know what I mean? Like I can go touch that. I can go to that and speak to that more.
Straight up.
You know what I mean? Like, and ask him questions and stuff.
Yeah.
But this guy's up here talking about we're not Moors, we're Indians. James Bay.
What more you need than that? What more do you need than that to go? All you so-called Indians, Aboriginal, Indigenous, whoever. What more you need?
I don't care what they call themselves. Hebrew Israelite, whatever. My great uncle is James Bay. You can't tell me I'm not a Moor. I don't want to hear nothing else. I'm not down with nothing else. I can't be nothing else. I'm just a Moor. I'm just James Bay. I seen it. That's all y'all might be whatever. Hey, okay, y'all could be that. I'm just showing you on my family, I'm a Moor. I got the documentation to prove it. And then leave me alone. Over here talking about, and let's go for all Cherokees. If you saying you Cherokee, well, I got the proof right here that you're Moor. Right there. That's why that's why Noble Drew Ali didn't say nothing about no Cherokee.
No wonder.
He already knew. He already knew. That was just regular. That was just regular. I tell him we get worse now with the indoctrination. Remember I broke down prom?
Oh yeah.
The word prom dress didn't exist until 1956. Look, that's recent. Look how stressful the world is right now over a prom dress. the word, all right, let's break it down. Prom is a shortened word. Prom is a noun. It's a shortened word for the word promenade. Promenade in Latin is promenere, and it means to herd animals, to yell at, to threaten. So when you're going to prom, you're going to a party of chattel. And the queen, the prom queen and the prom king you have, those are the heads of the chattel. That's in the dictionary. That's not, in the book. And I looked for it too. There's no books on it, no nothing. Nobody broke that down, nothing. That word prom means to herd animals or to gather animals. I know it's animals. It has nothing. And look at the stress that prom has done, man. People spend thousands of dollars on prom dresses, prom night. The stress that it goes down, and the whole thing was fraud from the start. I've seen on the news where they be like, "Oh, this is the first year they've had integrated prom." Well, the concept itself is modern. Anyway.
First year, like this is some ancient freaking thing.
Right. Y'all just started having this. Just like, and then that's what I be saying. I'm like when the word Indian came about and they was trying to use it or whatever, during the prophet's time, it couldn't have been around like that.
Yeah.
They just started being talked about now when the Moors came about. Nobody was hearing anything about no Indians. Nothing crazy. They just started coming out hard when Moors started making videos.
Mm-hmm. Only because Moors started going on with it. Stop playing that in the temple, whatever. Let's take this stuff out and talk about this stuff in the open. People started getting pressured.
Yep.
Started realizing, hold on a second. Now, we can't just have them talking about what's going on. Because trust me, like I say, everything was in 08. All the conscious people, there was no debating or none of that.
But Grand Sheik, he just said the word. If you keep playing the video, I forgot what part. He just said the word more didn't come about till 2014, 2015.
Well, yeah, let's go check some more then. Since we're
I don't know what's wrong with this guy on here, man.
So we're only at 3 minutes.
That was pretty recently, 2015, 2014. That's when that term more first surfaced for us up here. So we've always known that we're never about more. So
you tell me we don't got this? You tell me we don't got this? You tell me we don't got this? Come on, yo. Come on. You can't say we do not have this locked. You need to proclaim your nationality so you can be in tune with the universe. Please declare your nationality so you can be in tune with the universe.
Man, goosebumps, crazy right now. Chills, all of that.
Oh
that was
my
crazy.
Gosh, that was crazy. That was crazy.
That was insane.
That was crazy.
I told you he said it though.
Yep.
The word more, that conversation didn't come about till 2014 and 15.
Yep.
What?
Yeah, hold on.
More first surface for us up here. So we've always known, and then later on, people started to speak to my people. I can speak to Pokanokets. I can speak to the Nipmucks that are in the area. You know, we have always known who we were. We just could not figure out how to navigate this system of colonization that was upon us. But at no point did we ever not know who we were, and we knew that we were Indians was the term that that was utilized.
They're a British corporation. Remember that.
Right.
What they called us, Indians. And then later on, people started getting into the Native American stuff, but Indians. I'm a Narragansett Indian. That's what you would hear. I'm a Narragansett Indian. So we have always known that we are Indians. It was not until we started to move into the understanding of higher level understandings of how we interact with the law that the term Moor came about. That was fairly recently, 2015, 2014.
2015.
Yo, look at that.
2015 is when Moore came about. Okay, hold on. Let's just check. See when they started this page for a second. Let's just check this. Let's just see when they started this page up. 2015. Ain't that interesting? So the term Moor came about when they started their YouTube page.
Right. Look at that.
Right.
Look at that.
That's when that term Moor first surfaced for us up here.
Yep.
So we've always known that we're Indians by this system, never by Moors. So the answer to that question has to be no then, because if you have a group of Indians that are saying, no, we've never been Moors, how can you argue that Indians are Moors? Indians or Moors is a very generalized term that means that all Indians are Moors, and yet you have a very distinct group of Indians who are saying, no, we were never Moors. So the first step one, the only answer you give when someone says Indians or Moors is no. No, Indians are not Moors. Now, let's look at the three perspectives on why that's a true statement, because we can't just make statements. I can't just make a claim like that, right? And then not explain to you why. And it has to be something that you can understand and go and look up yourself, right? Because if not, then it's a bunch of hogwash. If you can't verify what someone's saying, and if they can't speak to the specificity and provide evidence of what they're saying, then what are they really saying? So let's look at the three perspectives on why that's the only answer you can give. And the first we're going to look at is from a historical perspective. And I'm not going to go too deep on this, just give some specific examples that you can go once again and go look up yourself. But we know that Columbus said that he was sailing to the West Indies, and that when he said he was sailing to the West Indies, there were Moors on the ship helping to get him over here. So clearly he knew who Moors were. Clearly Columbus knew who Moors were, what Moors were. Moors came out of Spain. That's what the understanding is, right? Before any European white colonization to these lands, they were dealing with the Moors over in Spain. So they clearly knew who Moors were. So when Columbus said he was sailing to the West Indies and got over there and called the people Indians, clearly there had to be a separate groupings of people.
Now, just again, let's just go to the PhD again, right? Let's go to the PhD again with regard to these people on this ship with this guy Columbus or whatever. All right. Page 60. Once more, one must consider the great significance of this Mandinka Portuguese partnership in the exploration of the Americas. It should also be no surprise when we find that among Columbus's crewmen were Moorish conversos, Moriscos. So these weren't just Moors like how they're talking about, like how they say there was Moors on the ship with him. It wasn't just Moors, it was conversos. It was Moors who went through the Spanish Inquisition that they got out of the Spanish dungeons. That's why it's conversos. It was Moriscos. And even though they were Moriscos, Alonso Pinzon was the Pinta's captain during the first voyage, and his brother, Yanix Pinzon, was the Nina's captain. If they're conversos, just look up conversos, it'll tell you what converso is. Look up Morisco, it'll tell you what a Morisco is. How does a converso or a Morisco become a captain of a ship? And then I thought they told you that Christopher Columbus was the one that came over here. If he's not the captain, then obviously he has nothing to do with that ship and all that. It has nothing to do with seeing Indians over here or whatever. He was a passenger. And who are the navigators of the seas during that time? The Moors. And what happened when those Moors came over those oceans and ended up here? There was Aramaic, Arabic, Latin, every type of language here.
Right. Because remember, when Columbus landed, the Moorish had to translate for Columbus to the Indians. So,
yep.
So when the Moors that was on the ship with Columbus was translating to Columbus from the Indians, quote unquote, they spoke to each other. What language were they speaking in?
Hmm.
And then when you do some research, you see that there's a lot I forgot the linguistics have showed that Arabic and some of the Native American tribes, their languages are similar. A lot of the words is the same thing. Algonquin itself is an Arabic word. Cotton is an Arabic word, but cotton only grows over here.
Right. And then
so that's the thing. That's insanity when you say that. Like, what do you mean cotton is an Arabic word? Cotton is an Arabic word, but it only grows here.
Yep. Why would an Arabic word be in the Americas?
Right.
And the only people who have a personal, up-close relationship with cotton is niggers.
Yep.
So, what do you mean? You have nothing to do with Moors if you're from this side. How come it's not some indigenous stuff? And again, when you go talk to the indigenous or whatever, they'll tell you about the language being relative to Arabic, certain words, and Sanskrit, and all these different languages. Why is that over here? I thought those things are only supposed to be over there. Some book references. Al-Sharif, Al-Idrisi, A.L. Sharif, A-L-I-D-R-I-S-I, and the book is Excursion of the Longing in Crossing Horizons. Excursion of the Longing in Crossing Horizons. Malian Sultan. And the pathways of sites in the provinces of kingdoms. The pathways of sites in the provinces of kingdoms. And the meadows of gold and quarries of jewels. The meadows of gold and quarries of jewels. And that one is by Abdul Hassan Ali. From the meadows of gold and quarries of jewels. A Cordoban-born Moor named Kashkash ibn Sa'id ibn Aswad sailed across the Atlantic. Leaving in 889 from the famed Spanish port city, Palos, Aswad reached an unknown territory he called Ard Majula and returned with great treasures. Within al-Masudi's map of the world, there is a large parcel of land within the ocean of darkness and fog. He referred to it as the unknown territory, evidently the Americas. Islamor, you got anything else over there?
That sound like, that word sound like Maghrib.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That word sound like Maghrib.
So,
I mean,
you know, go ahead, more.
I don't, like, because the way we just Hulk smashed it, right? Sometimes I have to sit up like, yo, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean, man? That doesn't even make sense what you just said right there. That didn't happen.
Zero.
We know that didn't happen. And then you try to say that Moors are under federal jurisdiction, Moors are foreign nationals. Like, man was talking insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, and this ain't India. This ain't India. And this ain't Narragansett.
Far too late in terms of our experience. Or else they're talking underneath the kingdom of Morocco. And clearly you can see with the treaties that are being signed between the with the U.S. But then to me, if you're talking the U.S., you're talking post-1776, right? That's the American Revolution and all that, somewhere in that time frame. And that's 100 to 150 years after what my people went through. So if you're talking treaties with the U.S. as your reason for being over here, then you're talking far too late. Far too late in terms.
No, and Moors are not speaking about treaties with the U.S. for us to be over here. Treaties for the U.S. for them to be over here.
Right.
And the reason why it's 150 years after your people, the Indians, did whatever is because that's how everything got messed up. But you guys doing these dummy treaties with these Europeans.
Yeah.
On top of the fact of these Europeans coming here, getting with the so-called Aboriginal indigenous people who are bringing them into the mainland and all that. Because in your so-called traditions of your Indian BS, all of you have this perspective of white whatever coming to save you, and that's why you brought them in. Because you thought that those people were the saviors.
Yeah.
Doing treaties as Indians with some European colonists who are claiming you're on the land, and then they're claiming something that has nothing to do with land, but they're doing it on your land, and you're signing.
Right. Yeah.
Not once did you think, hey, hold on a second. If we sign this, if they don't have any land, they came from somewhere else.
They're claiming that they have land here in order to do these dummy treaties.
Selling each other out because they going to war with each other. Fighting. Yep. Going to war with each other. Signing treaties with the Europeans. But it was based off of the fact, like, if you, okay, yeah, you can get this treaty, you just got to come help me fight these, Moors over here.
Right. Yeah.
And
we'll give you, we'll give you some of whatever is left over.
Yep. Because we tired of them. It's the same thing going on right now.
Same thing going on. People getting their little census deals. They're going to be able to get their name, their check mark on the box for the census and all that stuff. So they want you to go join their stuff when they're not telling you census is a Roman venue.
Yep.
And they're selling you out by even having you even consider filling it out. That ain't got nothing to do with you.
Nothing.
So they have a box on it that says check Aboriginal, Indigenous, Moor, or whatever. They have a box on there. Okay, they have a box on it. So what does that have to do with you? Nothing to do with the Moors.
Whatever they have on there is Roman. Roman chattel.
Roman chattel.
Yep.
Then it doesn't matter. You can be as right can be and you'll still lose. So we're talking strictly from a legalese perspective. So when I walk into court and say, well, I'm an Indian, according to Valentine's Law, 3rd edition, then they know that I'm an Aboriginal inhabitant of North America or South America when I get into a court of law. What am I saying when I walk into a court of law and say that I'm a Moor? And I just typed in Moor, Black's Law on Google. And this is the definition I got up. I think it's either 2nd edition or 4th edition. I think it might be 2nd. But a Moor is an officer in the Isle of Man who summons the courts for several sheetings. I don't even know what that means.
So there should be no moving forward. Because if you don't know what the definition of Moor means, now you're not saying you don't know what the word means, you say you don't know what the definition means. You don't know what the definition means, but you're using the word of the definition. You don't know what it means in the name of your video. This has nothing to do with Moors. This is how you know people just throw Moors in their title so they can get views.
Right.
That has nothing to do with anything about Moors.
Right.
Because he doesn't even know what it means.
Right.
Out of his own mouth. Because you can't tell me you don't know what a definition means. If you don't know what a definition means, then you're incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
Moor, an officer in the Isle of Man. I don't know what that means. You were just told what it means. Like, what do you mean you don't know what it means? You just read what it means. How don't you know what it means when you just read what it means?
But I know it's not an Aboriginal inhabitant of North America or South America. So then why would I walk into court if I'm claiming to be an American Aborigine, indigenous to these lands, an Aboriginal individual of these lands, an Aboriginal inhabitant of these lands? Why would I then walk into court claiming to be a Moor? Why?
Why? Because James Bay is a Cherokee. And James Bay never said he's Indian. James Bay never said he's Cherokee. He got Bay right there. Bay means that he's Moor.
Yeah. Not Chief Thunderfoot, Chief Blackhawk, none of that.
None of that.
James Bay.
James Bay.
Which is an officer. That's why Moor means officer.
It's real basic if you know what you're talking about. If you don't know what you're talking about, then you get what you get. And as you can see, you're not really getting too much from these people.
New England areas, we're Wampanoag. That's our thing. So we're Indians and we're Wampum people. But if you were to argue that a Nahigansis is the same as a Cayuga, a Pokanoket is the same as a Seneca, a Nipmuc is the same as an Oneida, a Massachusetts is the same as an Onondaga, or a Pequot is the same as a Mohawk. You're out your mind. You clearly have no understanding of the cultural nuances.
But all of them are gonna agree they're Indians, though.
Right.
No,
You said Massachusetts too.
Right.
And let's not forget, Massachusetts is Metacomet, King Philip or not, but Metacomet, and Metacomet wore the 5-pointed star on his neck. Like if you look up the picture of Metacomet, remember he got the 5-pointed star hanging.
Yep.
That's not Cherokee. That's not Massasoit. That's Moorish.
Moorish.
Like Morgan Freeman said. What kind of history?
That's Moorish.
Moorish. She mean.
Not Berber, not Arabic, not Muslim, none of that BS. Moorish.
The differences in language, the differences in foods, the differences in copper-colored nation, all of that, it disrespects every single nation I listed and the thousands of others who are out there. I'm going to say thousands because I'm not a fan of federal recognition. You're an Indian because of your blood and who your people are and where you come from in your relationship to these lands, not because the federal government says that you can go on its list to get funding. Or they'll allow you to let them put your land in their trust. So for all of the Indian nations out there that have been keeping and their ancestors who fought this fight, culture, or that there's an Aboriginal culture is absurd. It's totally definitions that tie in with look up the legal definitions. Look up a foreign national. Look up a resident versus inhabitant. Just look up the different cultures. Type in Indian cultures and basic info will come up explaining all of the different type of cultures, how they were tied in with the lands, how they spoke different languages. Just
okay, let's just do that one and see, right? Just type in Indian cultures, right? See what comes up. Indian cultures. And put it in Google Images. Indian cultures, right? They said type in Indian cultures, right? We can even go to all. Let's go to all first. Indian cultures. Culture of India. Indian culture. Traditions and customs of India. India. Language, culture, etiquette. Culture of India. Indian culture. Indian culture, tradition. They're not talking about anything having to do with Aboriginal indigenous people when you type in Indian. Indian culture, all we're seeing is Shivas and stuff like that. All you're seeing is saris, 800-hand deities and all that. You're not seeing no Aboriginal indigenous stuff when you look up Indian culture.
which is still Moorish. It's still Moorish. Still Moorish. Just the same type of the Indians over, quote unquote Indians over here wore hijab, just like this.
Look, there's one. Finally, something shows up. Way down here. Plains Indians culture. Another one. Southwestern Indian tribes.
That's a European. That's a European. That's because it's Roman property. That's why they can just put up anybody they want with that picture.
Anybody. Roman property.
It's property. It's a brand name for Roman property. They can put anything they want up there. Anything. They could have put a hippopotamus underneath Indian. They can put whatever they wanted.
Oh shit! I think I did something wrong.
And then, right? But the coach didn't too. But he says we can look up the word. But us Moors, I want to look up to see what the word means.
Yeah.
Which when you saying culture, what's culture? What is it? Well, according to the etymology dictionary, the figurative sense of cultivation through education, systematic improvement, and refinement of the mind is attested by 15th century. Ain't that what we do now? Ain't this culture?
Straight up.
Refinement of the mind. That's culture.
Yep.
What they're doing is dogma, putting you back in slavery. That's not culture. What they doing?
Straight up.
That's not culture. What he's doing, he's selling you back into slavery.
Right.
That's not culture.
Quick fast selling you back into slavery. They're not even waiting. They're selling you right now. Right now they're selling you. We want to say Islam to all the Moors. Brother Yusuf, give thanks more.
Islam. Give thanks to the Prophet.
Much thanks to the Prophet. Oh yeah, good thing you said that. So somebody in the beginning was talking about Noble Drew Ali and Marcus Garvey were boule or whatever.
Right, I saw that.
Yeah. Always remember that the work that Noble Drew Ali and Marcus Garvey did was never, ever from some selfish position for them to be some leader of some people. Everything that they did, go read their writings, they never spoke from some perspective of just them and this is theirs. They always spoke that this is for the peoples. And Boule never talked like that. Boule are about pushing agendas that keep our people stagnated. So don't even try those ones. And again, when people start talking their BS or whatever, make sure they give you a reference point. If they can't give you a reference point, then don't even go there.
And not give you the clear reference point. I mean, the definition of Moor was 2 sentences. He could have read both sentences.
Yep.
Talking about he paraphrasing. It's 2 sentences. What you mean you paraphrasing?
Yeah. And he's got it right in front of him. What are you paraphrasing for when you could just read the stuff? But we know how they do.
like right. You only paraphrase when it's not in phrase. I just got that. Like he read that and then said he was paraphrasing.
Yeah.
That's fraud.
That's fraud. That is colored.
That's fraud.
That's fraud. That's colored. That's everything. That's misrepresentation. That's everything. Every violation. That's treason.
Right. That's a half lie. That's what your mom told you about. So you just told a half-ass lie. That's what he did.
These are the people that put the falsehood in the truth and have you confused.
Yep.
They created the strange mixture of truth and falsehood. But Islam to all the Moors worldwide. Peace and love to all. Islam to the Moors in the chat. Islam to the Moors that's been supporting, that's been studying, that's been being who they know, being what they know, being their ancient foremothers and forefathers. And again, supreme honors to the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Garvey, and everybody that came with some type of sincerity to assist us to get out this BS we're in. Any other closing remarks more?
Yes, Islam all the Moors who stand on this square no matter what.
Sure.
Won't give in and give them to William Smith. They always stand up and be Kunta Kinte. Islam to those Moors. Islam to the Kunta Kintes.
Islam.
Stand on there.
Come on in, brother. Bless.
Islam more.
Bless. Have a seat, brother. Have a seat. Ah, yes. Come on in, brother. Welcome. Bless. Have a seat right there. Hey. Brother, bless. Have a seat, bro. Welcome. Bless. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. You guys ready to make some money? Yeah. I can't hear you. Ready to make some money? Yeah. All right. Let's get to work. All right, man. You get your birth certificates, man. You get a bunch of money from that, man. You know what I'm saying? You get your bonds. Tons of money, man. You know what I'm saying? You want to get flex, I guess you want to be good, man. You want to be flossing, get your fur coats on, right? You got this over here, right here. Just ignore all that right there. You know, over here, right here. This is what it's all about. It's all about the dollar signs. You know what I'm saying? It's all about the money. You know what I'm saying? It's all about the dollar signs. At the end of the day, it's all about the money.
So, SGK, how soon can I get my money after we do this? I have 10 grandchildren, you know. I need lots of money.
Hey, since this is so foolproof, can I get an advance? I got some stuff to take care of. I need the money.
Hold up.
Disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number and try your call again.
2 weeks going on 3, I gave him a G. Said with these papers I could be sovereign and free like folks in King Henry. Sipping on Henny and pigs' faces. No matter the places, travel rights, days and nights, cash and bonds on birth certs. Didn't tell me that birth is ERTH, bottom read benefits of instruments.
It's all about the money. Trust me, you go with this and you'll get the money. If you don't believe me, that's my smear right here.
Pissed off will break his wrists off. Dirty Moors got me wanna cut lips off and teeth chipped off. Dirty feet using me to go through windows. Probably took my Fiat and bought Indo and Kush. Off the roof I would push.
SGK.
Yes, sir.
Justice, no love.
How come no withdrawal is not on the board?
No reply from emails. He stopped tweeting, but he's giving details. Untrust and executive status. Dialing the number, got my fingers callous. Dirty more packets selling cheaters. Rob you with no conscience. Cognizant, not sleepers. And well aware, that's more the local. Plus they changed the corporate name and logo.
We're sorry, you have reached the number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number and try your call again. We're sorry, you have reached the number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number and try your call again.
They still on the Fiat hustle and the bustle. Got cats in the bag like ruffles, airtight. Use fair fright, martial law hype. If you
I believe you.
not even get wise with the quickness, ability, quickly nimble, won't stumble or tremble. Finding out I got played like symbols. Dirty more selling you your own Moorish symbols and crystals. No different than trees and reeds and toes missile. Drew Ali said, study, study, study. So you don't get enslaved, don't play by your own body. Giving money to a gold digging dummy. State hopping, dirty Moors, rob you out your dirty drawers. Souls perfect in fools' bodies. Setting up a PayPal smile. Those types don't even know what's coming. Cause when I see them, it's expose time, no running. No gunning, I was told get wise. Dirty people giving weasel evil eyes. Picking up the cell to call. I get nervous cause I know what's up after I heard this.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number and try your call again. We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service. If you feel you have reached this recording in error, please check the number and try your call again.
You got this show.
All this is yours? This is all yours?
For sure. What else is it?
Keep cool. Jeez. You get me some of that right now, man. Yo, SGK, hook me up.
Bro, I got all this. First day. Just not first day today, but next day.
X-Clan, again, leather pheasants, right? Telling me, used to see these regular, right? Leather pheasants, right? Leather pheasants, X-Clan, right? R.I.P. Sugar Shop, Moorish MC, avalanche flow, watch the floaters and rhyme chunks. All I see in dress code today is bite punks. Pants off your ass, but you wearing a belt, but don't use it. Take it off, give you welts like dad used to do it. Black with no autopsy, no knowledge of self. Had me in stores, waiting close racks and store shelves. I'm from Tobago, never fell for Santa and elves. R.I.P. Gummer, and those murdered by sickle and cells. Big up the thunder, never charge me for one beat. And that's the MO of all producers that keep it unique. They know I don't keep truth discreet. Flow force abundant, lyrics won't deplete. Can't retreat now, I made it too far. While corny rappers still only write rhymes in 16 bars. I might as well too, since that's how execs brainwash subjects. Multi-dimensional MC, underground like subdepths. Now the roll-up picture is Noriega, putting up the 5 and the 2, just like the Moors. Put up the 5 and the 2. This CNN, Noriega, gangster rappers, stunt drum money rappers. Go right now, go into the tape, the little tape thing with the drum, pull up the tape, unravel the insert, and then read the credits. This is a big CD. This is a big underground CD. CNN World. Moorish MC, not a poet, not a rapper. On tracks, vocals on Beretta, tongue clapper. Real as can be. I'm not a rapping actor like your favorite Ashkenazi Moor. Spit and drink a Sprite after. Won't teach you the law. And when he gets captured, he will get out like 3 strikes to back catchers. But you can't get out. Being you awarded a crown. Man got straight deny you due process in Moorish gown and sashes. All laws divine. He man's is average. Power of thought got God's acting like a savage. Color of law got the savage playing God's position. Then savages pray to stars so ancestors won't listen. So colonizers listen, kiss and tell you it's raining. Program your children and try to tell you they failing. Some of you need concentration camps. You don't think eating animal parts uncooked, it still looks pink. In order to clown charts, rappers accept exec wings. They only give you a deal cause your whack and flow stinks. Trust me, you like the exec wings, and I think that you got a deal cause your flow stinks, nigga. You got turban on, jewel, right? So Muhammad Ali's on it, Yasin Bey's on it, Sprague Ben's on it, Buju's on it, Swiss Beats is on it, Nori's on it, Nas on it, Flavor Flav's on it, Snoop's on it. Look at the jewel. Until the jewel, sister, real Roxanne. Right? Look at real Roxanne with her fez with the tassel on there, right there. That's real Roxanne. Everybody knows real Roxanne.
Don't talk about it. Talk about it. Don't talk about it. Talk about it. Don't talk about it. Talk about it. Don't talk about. Talk about. 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 Don't talk about what you see behind closed doors. Don't talk about business that you know that ain't yours. Better not talk about what happened in '04, but you can talk about what you hear from Canaanland Moors. Bet you won't talk about when you were on all fours. The times you wanted to experiment, explore. Most don't talk about the childhood they endured. It's psychological, need I say more? But all you do is talk shit. Yeah, I know that you're bored. Talk all you want about me. I've been learning to ignore. Don't talk about facts if you know you ain't sure. Let's talk about the reasons why we can't stop wars. Don't talk about it. Talk about it. Don't talk about it. Talk about it. Don't talk about. Talk about. 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 Don't talk about the trees and how you treated our shores. Disease for every season. Let's talk about the cures. You don't want to talk about the properties of ore, the minerals and elements and what it's used for. Oh, don't talk about that. It's organic and pure. Talk about how the apple rotten due to the poor. We'll talk about how radiation seep through the pores. All we do is talk about the bloodshed and gore. Don't talk about it. Talk about it. Don't talk about it. Talk about it. Don't talk about. Talk about. 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 You talk a good game, but I leave it on the floor. Talk some respect on my name before your skull get poor. And I PVR that shit, so don't talk about the score. Some say I talk too much, but I never stop talk. That I assure. Don't talk about waking up the line if you don't want to hear it roar. And I need to talk about the time she was acting like a whore. Well, let's talk about that thing on your lip right before I let you draw my split. That's looking like a sword. You can wait on the tail of twist this side or yeah, you better talk quick. Trust won't be restored. Don't talk about the plans of what we got in store. And let me hear you talk sideways about my boy Jam McGlure. Huh? My boy Jam McGlure. Don't let me hear you talk sideways about my boy Jam McGlure. What? Do your chores.
I know who this nigga talking to. I know you ain't talking to me. You can be talking to me, cause you think you're high and mighty. Who are you to tell everybody what to do? Or who to tell them? You judge, jury, and executioner. I know I talk when I want to talk. I do, say, talk, speak when I want to speak. How, when, what, why? Don't tell me what to do, nigga. You don't know me. Who the motherfucker you think you is?
Invasion. Watch for democracies, hypocrisy, philosophies, fear and shock factories, pseudo-fraud mockeries and poppy fields, blocking swinging shots without Moroccan shields, industry the mind floor versus walking stocking wheels, coffin fields empty, buried in the battlefield, working on the streets is walking in some cattle fields. King out for Jerusalem, lumber mental snoozing, sleepwalking and talking, cell phones are soothing, minds disappearing, genetic memory erasing, don't even have a job but they get you for tax evasion, hot like a frying pan, crying fam, lion men, news got inspired men, no loyalty to buying friends, no credit, debt slaves, walking over paved graves, enslaved, enraged, marriage to death, prearranged, Mike Supichini, farm tracks bikini, stupid niggas call my first bucket hat when they see me, but won't ask a thing or drink the water that I bring. But when the Pope comes, they're kissing on the ring. They rather drink a rapper's flow from the black fountain. Pipe Piper got the dead lined up in the thousands. Confusion with illusions, infusion with sorcery. Won't give up my birthright no matter what they offer me. No deal. Push the red button, I'm going home. Close my eyes, me Yasanel and Vendome. The fires that we put on roll, make them all shake. Islamism grand sheep, not spelled like shake. Open minds, not scarred on when you enter my zone. I wouldn't call it murder when I snap the neck of my clone, trying to escape with the Moorish temple charter. See the space for charter, no making me a martyr. Sir, I am larger. Aura is my armor. When I plant a seed in man's soil, round farmer. Use the almanac, sort of like an almanac. Keep listening, sleepless, hip-hop, insomniac. Moorish MC, call me that acquiesce, don't call back, just fall back. Any rapper after 95, all whack. Their flow just trickles like drops on icicles. Rappers need training wheels on their rhymesicles. Keep people's mind pickled in a lost realm. When it comes to Moorish MCs, I'm at the helm. Invasion. Trying to escape with the Moorish temple charter. See the space for slaughter. No making me a martyr. You learn I am larger. Aura is my armor. Aura is my armor. Invasion. Trying to escape with the Moorish temple charter. See the space for slaughter. No making me a martyr. You learn I am larger. Aura is my armor. Aura is my armor. Aura is my armor. Invasion.